Yo, it's Travelli, I'm back, and today I'm going to be breaking down the difference between the Pac-12 and the American Athletic Conference. A lot of people have been talking about, is the American better than the Pac? The Pac has been really bad in the last, 3-4 years, whatever. Is it time to make the American Conference a Power 5, or at least extend the Power 5 to make it a Power 6? What's the deal on this? I'm going to break down all of this stuff, so please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you like this content. I drop content Monday through Friday, so, I'm never slacking. Let's jump into the action, all right? We need to take a look at the last 3 seasons' final rankings to kind of see where the conference fared. That's how you can see what a team has really done when they've performed their 12 to 14 game stretch. You don't want to base teams off preseason. You don't want to just base it off the final rankings. That way we can break down their strength of schedule, how they performed, and et cetera, et cetera. So when we take a look at last year's 2019 final rankings, we'll see that the American outranked the Pac with the amount of teams at 4-2, but the Pac had the higher teams. Oregon and Utah were 5 and 16 respectively, and the American had UCF at 24, Cincinnati at 21, Navy at 20, and Memphis at 17. So they gave the American some legitimacy, but all of these teams were bunched together in the last 8 of the top 25 due to them all having 2 losses. So 2019, we can see it's at least even. If you look at the Pac, say, okay, they have 2 top heavy teams, but American is more spread out through the top 25. They have more to show. Okay, so I'll chalk that up to a tie. If we look at 2018, we see Washington State ranked number 10, UCF at 11, so virtually tied for that who's the top team. It would give the edge to Washington State by 1, but just barely, and UCF had to play LSU in the postseason, so, obviously that is going to be tough. So, but after that tie, we see Washington at number 13, and then that's it. And then for the American, it's the same thing. You have Cincinnati at 24. I'm looking at 2018 as a slight edge to the Pac, but just barely, just because Washington is number 13 and Cincinnati is 24. There's a big gap between those 2 teams, but UCF and Washington State were both neck and neck in the rankings. So it's a slight edge to the Pac, but just barely in 2018. 2017, UCF is ranked number 6. That is the highest team by far. You have to jump down to number 12 at USC, who's actually a 3-loss team. That year at number 12. So, that year it's tied 3-3 once again, but the edge goes to the American this year because UCF was 13-0 that year, and honestly, they were very good. I thought that season they should have at least been given some consideration to make the playoff, but whatever, they didn't. That's okay. But the point is, their number 1 team completely destroys the number 1 team from the Pac that season, and then the rest of it is jumbled up. Memphis at 25, South Florida at 21, Stanford at 20, and Washington at 16, and then again UCF at number 6. So if you look at these 3 seasons as a whole, their strength of schedule, the American teams as a whole are playing a little bit weaker strength of schedules overall, but just barely, because their out of conference games are usually teams that are in the Power 5. So the difference between the Pac and the American is that the Pac's a lot of their out of conference games for these top 25 teams, a lot of them were against scrub non-Power 5 teams. So you see that the American teams have to accomplish more really out of conference to get consideration. They cannot lose any games whatsoever. And the Pac, one thing that's consistent with the Pac throughout this analysis that I'm doing is that every single season, 2017, 18, and 19, every single one of their teams has 2 losses or more. That's in the top 25. They don't have any true runaways ever. The closest thing that they had was Oregon at number 5 this last year, and that was a 2-loss team. So when you look at the American, usually, besides last season, there's always a team that is in the American with 1 loss, always, whether it's UCF, 1 season, or whatever. I'm pretty sure UCF is the only team to do it, but a lot of these teams are going 11-2 and 12-2 and stuff like that. The thing is, UCF, when they pull off undefeated or a 1-loss season, they show that not only do we have the depth because we have a couple teams making it into the top 25, we also have the top heavy team that we need to represent us, which in 2017 that was UCF. In 2018, that's UCF. And then in 2019, they didn't really have it. They had 4 teams all battle it out, just like the PAC. The PAC is always killing themselves. That's the problem. The PAC is always committing, conference suicide by all these tough teams are playing each other and losing. They just haven't been able to close the gap and have a season where they're not a 2-loss team. So I'm going to chuck this up to a tie. I'm going to say that right now, based on the performance of the last 3 years, you can see that these teams in the top 25, whether it's UCF or Memphis, or if it's Washington State or Oregon, none of them are making the playoff, and they're always inconsistently jumbled around the top 25. In 2017, Oregon's not even there. Okay, in 2018, they're not even there. And then in 2019, they're number 5, right? At least you see UCF is in the rankings all 3 of these seasons. Memphis is in the rankings 2 out of the 3 seasons. So it's like Cincinnati's in the rankings 2 out of 3 seasons. I'm seeing more consistency from the teams from the American to get there. And I'm seeing really disappointing stuff from the PAC. If you think about it, it is a Power 5 conference. I'm comparing a Power 5 conference to a non-Power 5 conference, and when you look at the two side by side, they're basically even any way you slice it. Yes, the American has a lesser strength of schedule and maybe less 5-star and 4-star recruits as a whole, but they're performing just as well when it comes down to the final rankings. At least the committee, as we're seeing right here, 4-2 American, 2-2, and 3-3. They're outperforming them by getting more teams to the top 25 at the end of the season. So it's a more balanced conference. Obviously, the Pac-12 is going to have a bigger ability to get a blue blood to the playoff based on schedule, strength of schedule, and all of that. But they're not performing well under that pressure. So what it comes down to is a straight-up tie. That's really what I think. I think it's a tie, and eventually, if the American can continue playing at this level, you are going to see serious consideration from the college football committee to maybe extend the Power 5 to maybe say it's now a Power 6. So we'll see. Yeah, that's about it for today, guys. I'll be back on Monday with more content. Thank you guys so much as usual, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.